Greetings, this is going to be our monthly update on the transition from internal combustion engine vehicles to battery operated vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles. This is one of the biggest technological disruptions that is occurring in the world right now, and that is why I give it coverage almost every month. So as always, we go to my article at The Futurist. So people who have seen this portion before, you may want to skip ahead a couple of minutes, but there's always first-timers here as well, so you should watch this entire explanation. So this is an article I wrote in December of 2018, a fair bit of time ago, when electric vehicles were still only a very small percentage of new car sales, and I predicted why the adoption of electric vehicles was finally going to happen very quickly after several decades of there being no progress at all, because now we are closer to the first principles of technology and exponential compounding improvement. So I click on this chart and pay attention to the right hand side of this chart. You see there's two exponential trends over here. Battery cost, the blue bars, showing how much cheaper batteries are getting in terms of kilowatt hours per dollar. This is an essential aspect of electric cars becoming a viable product. The number of kilowatt hours per dollar is a metric of how much of a range the battery of an electric car can have, and this has been improving exponentially from 1,000 in 2008 all the way down to about 100 by now. And then in addition to that, you have this brown side of the chart as well. Battery energy density, watt hours per liter. This is also rising from 200 to 800. So the blue became 10x better, and the brown/maroon became 4x better. So 40x improvement from 2008 to 2022, 14 years. That naturally will cause a tremendous increase in the adoption of electric vehicles, because that is really what was holding electric vehicles back. The cost, the range, the reliability, and other metrics of performance. And now we can say that more and more electric vehicles are in fact superior to internal combustion engine vehicles. And as this realization spreads, you get faster and faster adoption. So how quick has the adoption been, and what is the data from the most recent month? For that, we go to our Inside EVs article. So as we migrate over to the Inside EVs article, we see the full year-end numbers as well as the December numbers. Global plug-in car sales were 900,000 units in December of 2021 and 6.5 million for the full calendar year. That means December was about a seventh of the whole year. It's only one of the 12 months, but was a seventh of the whole year because of the gradient of growth that we were experiencing. But if we scroll down to see more of the data, battery electric vehicles, meaning fully electric vehicles, are 11%. Plug-in hybrid electric vehicles are 4%. So battery electric vehicles are superseding plug-in hybrid electric vehicles because that plug-in dimension just isn't that compelling, given how quickly the batteries are accelerating technologically themselves. And therefore, the total for the month of December was 15% of all new car sales were electric vehicles. 15%. So then we go to click on this chart over here. This chart is complicated for someone who is not familiar with this data, so let me walk you through this chart if you're here for the first time. Each of these months of the calendar year are represented by 6 different calendar years, 2016 through 2021. The chart does not go further back than 2016 because the sales of electric vehicles were too little to be of significant representation on this chart. But if you go back to my archives on The Futurist, you will see the numbers even for 2015 and earlier, when electric vehicles were only 1 or 2 or even 3% of the cars sold in the world. Now, in 2021, you see the tremendous growth over 2020. So even if you smooth out any assumptions because of COVID or anything like that, the growth is a straight line up. December of 2016 was only 1/9 of December of 2021, so 9x of a gain. The same thing appears to be apparent for November, October. So a 9x increase in sales. That's how we've gone from what was only 1.5 to 2% of all new car sales in the world being electric vehicles as recently as 2016 to now 15% of new car sales being electric vehicles. In Europe, they are already in the high 20s. 27, 28% of all new car sales are electric vehicles. In East Asia, China, Japan, and South Korea, it's also in the high teens over there. Only the United States is still in single digits, and even in the United States, there is substantial regional variation. In the Bay Area where I live, it's probably like Europe, 27-28% of new car sales are electric vehicles, and every third or fourth car that I see in my neighborhood happens to be a Tesla. But in the interior of the US, it may still only be 1% because there are a lot of ideological rigidities about electric vehicles that believe EVs are no more advanced than they were in 2002 or in some cases 1979, based on whatever year was politically salient for the conservative person who holds those beliefs. Now, that is factually wrong because they just have no recognition for how quickly the technology has improved. And that's why sales are 9 times higher worldwide than they were even 5 years ago. 9 times higher than 2016. And this is not because of subsidies or anything like that, because this is a worldwide number and it is not possible for the entire world to be coordinated on the same subsidies. Some European countries may subsidize certain things, but they cannot distort the entire world's numbers based on their subsidies alone. I mean, Norway is a country where almost 90% of new car sales are electric vehicles, but Norway is a very small country. It is not a significant amount of this total worldwide sales number. And even in the United States, the percentage growth rate is very high. If the United States market share is only 3% of new cars are electric vehicles, whereas the worldwide number is 15%, that just makes the United States 4 to 5 years behind on this growth curve. No more. In the long run, the fact that the United States was a slight laggard in electrical vehicle adoption is not even going to be a significant historical footnote, any more so than the fact that the United States was earlier in internet adoption than Europe and certainly East Asia at the time was. Nobody cares about that because that was only a couple of years of differential in the grand scheme of things. In electric vehicles, we are seeing the same thing. Now, because so many vehicles are now electric and so many new car sales are electric, we're going to see a lot of distortions in the market that I spoke about in other months. Used internal combustion engine cars are going to start dropping in value because there isn't enough new demand for them. Just 5 years ago, internal combustion engine cars were 98% of new car sales, but now they are only 85% and shrinking. Therefore, internal combustion engine cars that are 3 to 10 years old are too many in number and with too few people willing to buy them. So their prices are going to get revised downward given their technological inferiority to electric vehicles. The other thing that you're going to see is all the secondary and tertiary market disruptions and creative destruction as a byproduct of all this. The entire supply chain of world oil is going to change. Importing oil from the other side of the world will in the future be seen as a very odd practice, and people will be shocked that it went on for the few decades that it really went on, because electrical supply is far more decentralized. People can plug in their car at home and it charges overnight, or even during the day while they're parked, or even at their workplace while they are parked there. And it's fully charged by the time they're ready to leave. That is a much more decentralized supply chain that does not require any specialized, dedicated land allocation like we have for gas stations. Now, the number of gas stations in the United States is only half as many as it was in 1980, but there's still a lot of them, and they occupy a very prime land because they have to be on city street intersections in high traffic areas. Therefore, a lot of prime land is consumed in gas stations that will soon no longer have to be devoted to gas stations. So you're going to get a repurposement of all that land. The entire practice of importing oil, going back to that, the wastefulness of that will also be relieved because ultimately 15% of all oil is consumed in just the transportation and refinement of oil when you count extraction of oil from the ground all the way up to gasoline at the fuel pump. 15% of all oil is just consumed in the extraction, refinement, and transportation of oil. That itself tells you that that was never the long-term technological solution because that gets too close to an innate violation of the first principles of technology and economics. A very concentrated source of energy, a very inefficient distribution mechanism of energy, all sorts of problems associated with that internal combustion engine paradigm, which was valuable because it got us to where we are today. But the inevitability of electrical vehicles will seem pretty obvious in hindsight to certain people, but for those of us looking at this in foresight and who recognize the exponential nature of this technology, this is really an important historical thing to watch, and that's why I cover this every month, even if there's some repetition every month. This is the single biggest technological disruption underway in the world at the moment. When it is more mature, it will saturate and give way to the next disruption after that and the next disruption after that. But the accelerating technomic medium grows in size and strength through the contribution of electric vehicles to it, because you are replacing something that was improving 1 to 1.5% a year, an internal combustion engine car, with something that by many accounts improves at about 8% a year, let's say, which is electric vehicles. 8% improvement per year. That is very substantial. That means EV models that are 3 or 4 years old are already obsolete, or at least very inferior relative to their price compared to new EV models of today. And that's how we're getting into the same upgrade and cost depreciation trajectory that we have experienced with personal computers, except with a much bigger ticket item. And therefore, the accelerating technonomic medium of the world, the atom, gets larger and larger as more and more portions of the economy get on a faster accelerating trajectory of exponential growth. So I hope this video was informative for you, and if you like this type of content and have not subscribed to this channel yet, I encourage you to do so. Thank you very much for watching.